A number of years ago, a young man walked into a lumber camp. He wanted to get a job as a lumberjack just for the summer. You see, he was a full-time college student, and he figured he could make some pretty good money working in this lumber camp, and he'd be able to pay for his room, board, books, tuition. Well, in the interview, the foreman stopped him and said, "Son, now just a second. Before we go much further, I have to tell you, there's a little test that you're going to have to take, and that is you're going to have to cut down trees for 3 days. At the end of that third day, we'll decide, based on your production, whether or not we can keep you on as a full-time lumberjack." Well, the young guy was in pretty good shape. He says, "I can handle that." So, sure enough, the next day he shows up for work bright and early, works the whole day, gets finished, tallies up the number of trees he's knocked down, and he's pretty happy. He'd knocked down 48 trees. Pretty good for the first time. So the next day he shows up for work, same time, takes his usual coffee break and lunch break. At the end of the day, he confidently tallies up the number of trees he's knocked down. Well, this time it's a little bit different. There are only 36 trees the second day. Something's wrong. And he really wants this job, so he figures, I know what I'll do. I'll go to work real early the next day, skip my lunch break, skip my coffee breaks, work later in the evening. I'm sure to get the job. Well, that's what he did. The next day, gets to work early, does all those things, and at the end of the day, he very hesitantly tallies up the number of trees he's knocked down, and much to his surprise, again, there are even less. Only 24 trees. He's beside himself. The foreman walks up to him and says, "Well, son, how'd you do?" The young man says, "I don't get it. I worked longer and harder today, the third day, than I did the first day. I only cut down half as many trees." Well, the foreman was somewhat of a compassionate man and responded with this. He said, "Well, son, where are your cutting tools?" "Cutting tools?" The young man said, "Sure." He runs off, gets all his cutting tools, brings them back. The foreman looks them over very carefully and then makes the comment, says, "Son, these tools are dull. When was the last time you sharpened them?" Now, the young man's kind of at the end of his wits. He says, "Listen, man, so I've been working so hard, I haven't had time to sharpen my cutting tools." Well, the foreman says, "Well, listen, son, I don't think you get it. And that is, if you want to be a professional lumberjack, you've got to make the time to sharpen your cutting tools." Now, I'd be surprised if you haven't heard that story at least 2 or 3 times before. But the purpose of bringing that story to this presentation today is to just let you know that we all have to take the time to sharpen our cutting tools if we're going to stay ahead in this game called life.